Recently, I was approached by Gaomon to do a review on one of their tablets, specifically for the S630, and I agreed. Keep in mind, however, that while I did receive this tablet for free for review purposes, all opinions are still my own. Additionally, for anyone who may be here for the Paws of Stars content, just hold on for a couple of minutes. During the speed paint of the illustration I did to fully test the new tablet, I have some interesting stories to share about a couple of the characters in my story. For now, though, let me show you the tablet itself. The S630 is a small screenless tablet with a price point at only $33 US, rather cheap as far as tablets are concerned. Fancier screen tablets can run a few $100s, so it's advantageous to get your mileage out of the screenless ones. This one is quite nice. It has a lovely design over both the packaging and the tablet surface itself, and 4 rubber pieces on the bottom to stop slipping, which is very helpful if you're working on a desk or other smooth surface. It works with both Windows and Mac computers, as well as with Android phones, which could be very interesting if you have access to one. Do keep in mind, though, when connecting the tablet to a phone, your work size is decreased and you can't use the express keys. However, you don't need to download a driver, and using your phone to draw on could be much more convenient and accessible. The tablet connects into a traditional USB port in your computer, this kind, but it also comes with an adapter to micro USB, this one, for Mac users. If you want to use it with a phone, you would need to purchase a separate adapter that fits with it, as one is not provided. Here is the driver screen that you'll see when you download it on your computer. Keep in mind that, as is often the case, the Gaomon S630 can conflict with other drivers if you have any installed for other tablets. If the device shows as connected when you first download, you may have to uninstall other drivers first before it will register. In this screen, you can see the 3 main customizing areas. The first, that you'll probably want to go to immediately, is the Express Key tab. The tablet has 4 express keys across the top, and if you don't want to use them, you can turn them off so they won't interfere with your drawing. But they are very useful. You can essentially customize them to perform any shortcut function in your program. I chose one to be Undo, another Add Layer, and the last 2 Zoom In and Zoom Out. The next screen focuses on the stylus pen, and here you can program the last 2 buttons, which are both on the pen. I like to program one to be the right click and leave the other alone, as I have a tendency to hit them accidentally while drawing. Here you can also customize the sensitivity of the pen, and test out how it will work with the pen pressure. I recommend fiddling around with it for a bit until you find a range you like. Finally is the Work Area tab. If you have multiple monitors, or a monitor in a different ratio, you can change up what the tablet will affect in this tab. Now I'll begin testing the tablet. It's important to get comfortable with how a tablet works and feels before you try a full-on illustration, getting to know any size changes, small lag, or pressure sensitivities that might be new to you. This is definitely the case with screenless tablets, especially if you haven't ever tried one before. For the first few minutes, it can feel odd to be drawing with your hand, but looking for the result on the screen. Still, I find that it's rather easy to get used to with a little bit of time. Screenless tablets can also have their own advantages, since the tablet can sit in your lap or flat on your desk as you draw, allowing you to get more comfortable with it and not instantly ruin your posture over hours of drawing. The work area for this tablet is 5 inches by 3.2 inches, so a rather small size, but I didn't find it to be too much hassle while I was testing. It also has a battery-free pen, which is honestly wonderful. I've seen a lot of cheaper tablets that require the pen to be charged or have a battery in it to work, which in addition to making the process more troublesome, can get very clunky. The battery-free pen of this tablet is much lighter and easier to work with. The tablet also has 8,162 levels of pen pressure, which essentially means that it will be quite good at detecting how hard or lightly you're pressing on the pen so you can get varied line width. Ignore the very sloppy Sunnyfall sketch I'm doing there in the background for practice's sake. That's not a great example. But once you get more used to it, you can use this tablet to add a lot of pleasing variability into your lines. It also, thank goodness, works whether you are left or right-handed. I'm ambidextrous myself, but because my main tablet is built only to be used right-handed, I've gotten more used to drawing that way. But with the buttons here being across the top rather than at one side, it is easy to use regardless of which hand is dominant. Alright, that should be enough testing. For the rest of the video, while I give you the chance to watch the tablet's performance in a longer session, I would like to talk to you about a couple of characters from Paws of Stars, my 7-book rewrite series combining Power of 3 and Omen of the Stars. In general, I try to stay as canon compliant as possible when I'm putting Paws of Stars together, which includes almost exclusively using the cast that already exist in the books and simply fleshing them out or using them for different things. However, when it came to the Dark Forest, I couldn't take that approach. Even taking every character who has ever been mentioned to be in the Dark Forest at any time chronologically before Power of 3 and Omen of the Stars, and including Antpelt, who dies during that period and goes to the Dark Forest, the fighting force they would have is a whopping 15 cats. Not only was that a ridiculously small number to face off against 68 clan cats, not even including StarClan, but it also really doesn't make sense for there to be that few cats through all of clan history who were sent to the Dark Forest, especially considering how many of them are recent. Essentially, I needed to beef up the Dark Forest, both to add in more prospective mentors for living trainees, and to make it feel more like a real historical place that has existed and been taking in cats for a really long time. Along with expanding and specifying the backstories for a lot of barely mentioned canon Dark Forest cats, I invented a host of new ones, including the two that I would like to talk about today, Ebonystar and Fawnstar, or Fawnskip. To get the first couple questions out of the way, why are they both she-cats? Because the vast majority of the canon Dark Forest cats, especially the prominent ones, were toms, and I wanted to even it out a bit. Also, isn't Fawnskip Moonkitty's username in some places? Yes, it is. This was a complete accident at the time, but when I realized and told her about it, she said I could keep it without changing the name. With that out of the way, let me tell you about them. And, for anyone who may be worried about this, spoilers through Inferno, the third book of Paws of Stars, and the prologue for Founder's Pact. I'll speak first about the cat who, in my universe, started the Dark Forest, Ebonystar. Appearance-wise, she is a tall, relatively lithe she-cat with well-muscled legs and a sleek, dark, dull indigo pelt. She has one white patch over her left eye, and those eyes are a bright green. For a handful of the cats I added to the Dark Forest, I took inspiration from the guidebooks, especially Code of the Clans. Ebonystar is one of these cats. However, she isn't one whose name was mentioned. All we had from her was her gender, female, and her eye color, green. Ebonystar, or Ebony Strike as she would have been named at the time, lived during the time of the story in the third code. Elders and kits must be fed before apprentices and warriors. Though the story, both the one in Code of the Clans and the one in Ebonystar's past, has little to do with that rule, and far more to do with the beginnings of a seemingly endless war. Once the river changed and drained away from one side of Sunning Rocks, the territory belonged to ThunderClan. Even as a mere warrior, Ebony Strike was the first to convince her clan to take it, but RiverClan wasn't prepared to give up their land without a fight. Several fights, actually. One of these battles was the one portrayed in Code of the Clans, which involved Ebony Strike's apprentice, Driftpaw, being picked on by the RiverClan Tom Splashheart, and Ebony Strike stepping in with Reedshine to stop him. Through every encounter, Ebony Strike was prepared to match RiverClan claw for claw, training not only her apprentices, but fellow warriors as well, and soon taking her place as ThunderClan's deputy, alongside Splashheart. But of course, with RiverClan's leader Darkstar being older than ThunderClan's leader Brackenstar, he somehow weaseled his way into becoming leader first. Even though Ebonystar joined him soon enough, she wasn't finished yet. Splashstar went before the clans and made her out to be a villain for starting this war. StarClan did nothing. RiverClan took back the rocks. StarClan did nothing. SkyClan even took a strip of land from ThunderClan in the middle of Leafbear. StarClan did nothing. StarClan had no care for ThunderClan, the clan that never should have been. They meant for it to be taken over by SkyClan again eventually, and no attempts to ground themselves would make StarClan allow them to take Sunning Rocks. Ebonystar knew her clan had a right to live. So, methodically, over the next few seasons, she led attacks on every clan in the forest, meticulously tracking every moment of training from the mentors and leading more sparring sessions even with full warriors. They developed new techniques to win even when outnumbered, and soon became the most feared clan in the forest. When Ebonystar lay dying of green cough, she wouldn't let that be her death, and instead led one last battle against Sunning Rocks, giving her deputy Archfern the word not to leave when she was gone. ThunderClan won that night, but as Ebonystar lay dying, she couldn't stand the thought of joining the ancestors who had abandoned her, when it was her own strength and will that she had always been forced to rely on. It took massive amounts of effort to pry her spirit away over and over, but eventually she landed in a new place, one she created herself, though a lot of the details were left to chance without the power for Ebonystar to change them herself. Now, in the present, Ebonystar of course believes herself to be the best choice for leader of the new, united Dark Forest. She is, after all, its creator, and the oldest and most experienced warrior there. However, since Tigerstar was the one who found the way to unite them in the first place, she allowed him to join her in that title. Now both of them lead the Dark Forest. Second, I would like to discuss the cat who named the place of no stars, Fawnstar, or perhaps more accurately Fawnskip. She is a long-furred tan and white splashed she-cat with piercing amber eyes, and she was the first Dark Forest resident to bring in living cats in their dreams for her to speak with. It was then where she named the place of no stars, and let its reputation spread quietly through the clans. She was born to a kitty pet, but was lost to her mother somehow and discovered by SkyClan, mewing pitifully on the pavement in the rain. Thanks only to the medicine cat's kindness, she was taken in and did her best to prove herself worthy of them. She always knew inside that she was meant for something great, and that the medicine cat's prophecy about a light to clear away the tension in the clans and bring back SkyClan's glory was about her. Yet, as hard as she tried, it didn't work. Most of the clans still thought of her as a useless addition who couldn't pull her weight, and the medicine cat seemed to regard her still as a kitty pet victim they had saved rather than a capable warrior. One day, after an argument with her leader, it came to a breaking point, and Fawnskip set off, leaving SkyClan and forming a band of loners, rogues, and kitty pets instead, impartial cats who could force a peace between the existing clans. She wasn't a true leader, but she took the name of Fawnstar and named her own band the Warriors of Peace. Fawnstar was going to save them, and make sure they acknowledged her as their hero. But her group didn't follow her orders, instead choosing to take clan prey and even kill cats in the guise of needing it to continue their mission. She had no real power over them, and soon another cat came to defeat her, fulfilling the prophecy. For many years after she was sent to the Dark Forest, she believed it to be a mistake. She had been plenty strong, saved cats, and always had good intentions. But if she had really been so great, anyone would have said so. They never had, because she hadn't really been a hero, or even a good cat. I have write-ups similar to this on almost all of the new and expanded Dark Forest cats in the Paws of Stars universe, but I hope you enjoyed learning about these two lovely ladies for now. They had, and have, very different lives and outlooks on them, but both have landed themselves in the Dark Forest, and have an important place in both the history and future of that place with no stars. And with that drawing out of the way, I can safely say that it was pretty easy to get comfortable with this tablet. You have a fair bit of control with the pen pressure and some fiddling with the settings, and the express keys are a very useful addition. I did find myself reaching over my drawing hand sometimes to reach an express key I wanted, and with only 4 keys I still had to jump to the keyboard for several functions, but they were a benefit nonetheless. The small size didn't end up being much of a problem at all. I could still do most details and strokes that I wanted by taking advantage of zoom and flip options in my drawing software, and not having to move my hand around as much made for an easier workflow. Longer, smooth lines were more difficult to do on a tablet this size, but using the line and curve tools, it is quite easy to get past that. I could see this being an especially good size for artists who are traveling, as the tablet combined with a computer or phone wouldn't take up much space, and would be much easier to take out and put away as needed than a larger tablet. I can't speak to its longevity, but screenless tablets tend to last longer than screened ones, especially when it comes to connectivity issues. Of course, you should remember to take care of your tablet. Don't leave it under heavy things that would hurt the surface, and replace your nibs when they start getting dull so they don't scratch the tablet during use. Keeping that in mind though, I don't have any major complaints. All in all, I would definitely recommend the S630, particularly for new artists trying out their first drawing tablet, or for anyone working in a small space or a variety of locations. If you're interested in checking it out yourself, the purchase links are in the description below. Thank you again to Gaomon for sending me the tablet, and thank all of you for watching.